Most people believe what they're told. He learned to see what they're hiding. Baltasar Gracián, a 17th century Spanish Jesuit who spent his life studying human nature, not through books, through observation, through watching people lie, manipulate, and pretend, through seeing what they show versus what they actually are. And what he discovered about reading people, about seeing through appearances, about knowing who to trust and who to avoid, it's still the most practical guide to human behavior ever written. Because people will lie to you every single day. And if you can't see through it, you'll get used, manipulated, destroyed. Not because you're stupid, because you trust appearances. And appearances lie. So let's go back. 17th century Spain. Everything is politics. Everything is appearance. Everyone's playing games, pretending to be something they're not, showing one face while hiding another, and survival depends on seeing through the act. Gracián is watching all of this, as a priest, as an advisor, as someone who sees behind closed doors, who hears confessions, who knows what people actually think versus what they say. And he's taking notes, studying patterns, learning to read people, and here's what he realizes. Most people are terrible at it. They believe what they're told. They trust appearances. They take people at face value, and they get destroyed because of it. Used by people they thought were friends. Betrayed by people they thought were loyal. Fooled by people who knew exactly how to fool them. So Gracián starts writing. Not philosophy, tactics, practical methods for reading people, for seeing what they're hiding, for knowing who's real and who's fake, for protecting yourself in a world where everyone's lying. He says the first rule is simple. Watch actions, not words, because words are cheap. Anyone can say anything, but actions reveal truth. What people actually do when something costs them, that's who they really are. Someone tells you they're loyal. Don't believe them. Watch if they're there when it's inconvenient, when it costs them something, when being loyal isn't easy. That's the test. That's what reveals the truth. Someone says they're your friend. Watch if they celebrate your success or get jealous. Watch if they're there when you fail or only when you're winning. Watch if they keep your secrets or gossip when you're not around. Actions, not words. Actions reveal character. Gracián also teaches to watch people under pressure, because that's when masks slip. When things are easy, anyone can act noble. Anyone can pretend to be good. But add pressure, add stress, add consequences, and people's real nature comes out. Watch how someone treats a waiter, how they act when they're angry, how they respond when they don't get what they want, how they behave when they think nobody important is watching. That's who they actually are. Everything else is performance. He said, know how to read people's faces. The countenance is the mirror of the soul. Study physiognomy. Now he's not talking about pseudoscience. He's talking about microexpressions, body language, the things people can't fully control. The gap between what they're saying and what their body is showing. That gap tells you everything. Someone says they're fine, but their jaw is tight. Their shoulders are tense. Their eyes are looking away. They're not fine. They're lying. Maybe to you, maybe to themselves. But the body doesn't lie like words do. The body leaks truth. Someone says they agree, but they're leaning back, crossing their arms. Their tone doesn't match their words. They don't actually agree. They're just saying what you want to hear. And if you're watching, you can see it. But most people only listen, so they miss it. Gracián also teaches to test people, not obviously, subtly. Give them small opportunities to show their character, small chances to be honest or dishonest, to help or betray, to be loyal or self-serving. Tell someone a secret that's not important and see if it gets out. That tells you if they can keep bigger secrets. Ask someone for a small favor that costs them a little and see if they do it. That tells you if they'll help with bigger things. Give someone a small amount of power and watch how they use it. That tells you how they'd use real power. These are tests, and people fail them constantly. They think small things don't matter, that little betrayals are okay, that minor selfishness won't be noticed. But Gracián notices. And once he sees it small, he knows it'll be big later. Because character doesn't change based on scale. It just reveals itself. He also warns about people who are too perfect, too agreeable, too nice. Because real people have edges, have flaws, have moments where they're not perfectly composed. But manipulators, they perform. They show you exactly what you want to see. And that perfection is the tell. That's how you know they're faking. Real friends disagree with you sometimes. Real allies tell you hard truths. Real people have bad days where they're not perfectly pleasant. But manipulators are always on. Always performing. Always managing your impression of them. And that constant performance is exhausting. So they slip. And if you're watching, you see the slip. The moment where the mask cracks. And that moment tells you everything. Gracián said, make yourself needed. The more you are wanted, the higher your value. But he also warns about people who make themselves seem more valuable than they are. Who create artificial scarcity. Who play hard to get, not because they're actually valuable, but because they want you to think they are. And you can spot this by watching if their value is real or manufactured, if people genuinely seek them out, or if they're constantly positioning and maneuvering. Real value doesn't need to be advertised, doesn't need constant positioning. People just recognize it and want it. But fake value, that needs marketing, needs constant reminders, needs you to be convinced. And that effort to convince you, that's the tell. Now let's make this practical. Because people are lying to you right now. Not everyone, but some. And if you can't tell which ones, you're vulnerable, you're exposed, you're going to get hurt. Think about your workplace. Someone's positioning themselves as your ally, saying all the right things, but watch their actions. Do they actually support you when it costs them something? Do they give you credit? Do they help when nobody's watching? Or do they only ally with you when it benefits them? Gracián would tell you to test this. Give them a small opportunity to help you versus help themselves, and watch what they choose. That tells you everything about whether they actually your ally or just using you while it's convenient. Or think about your relationships. Someone says they care about you, says they're committed, says you matter to them. But watch their actions. Do they prioritize you? Do they sacrifice for you? Do they show up when it's hard? Or do they only show up when it's easy? When you're fun? When being with you costs them nothing? Actions, not words. Watch actions, because words are free. Actions cost something. And what people choose when something costs them, that's the truth. Here's another one. Someone's telling you about themselves, their accomplishments, their values, their character, and it all sounds good. But Gracián would tell you to verify, not by asking them more questions, by watching them, by seeing if their life matches their story, if their reputation matches their claims, if other people confirm what they're telling you, or contradict it, because liars tell you who they are. Honest people show you. And the difference is easy to spot if you're looking. But most people don't look. They just believe. And that's why they get fooled. Gracián also teaches to watch patterns over time. One action might be an accident. One mistake might be genuine. But patterns are character. Someone who's late once might have had a real problem. Someone who's late every time. That's who they are. And they're showing you. You just have to watch. Someone who breaks one promise might have had a legitimate reason. Someone who breaks promises repeatedly. They don't value their word. And once you see that pattern, you know they'll break bigger promises too. Because it's not about the promise, it's about who they are. This is how you read people. Not through one conversation, through observation over time, through testing, through watching actions versus words, through seeing patterns, through noticing when the performance slips and the real person shows through. And here's what happens when you get good at this. You stop getting fooled. Stop trusting people who don't deserve trust. Stop being surprised when people betray you because you saw it coming. You start seeing clearly, and that clarity protects you. You also start surrounding yourself with better people, because you can spot the real ones. The ones whose actions match their words. The ones who don't perform. The ones who show you who they are through what they do, not what they say. And those people, the real ones, they're rare. But once you can see them, you can build with them. Gracián lived in a world where reading people incorrectly could get you killed. Where trusting the wrong person meant losing everything. Where seeing through appearances was survival. And what he learned in that environment, it's still true today. People still lie, still manipulate, still show you what you want to see, while hiding what they actually are. And if you can't read them, if you can't see through the performance, you're going to get hurt, used, betrayed. Not because people are evil, just because they're self-interested. And if you can't see that self-interest, you can't protect yourself from it. But you can learn, you can develop this skill. You can start watching actions instead of believing words. You can start testing people in small ways. You can start noticing patterns. You can start seeing the gap between performance and reality. That's how you read people. That's how you protect yourself. That's how you build a life with people you can actually trust, because you verified that trust through observation, not just hoped for it through belief. Gracián wrote this wisdom 400 years ago, and people are still the same. Still lying, still performing, still showing you what they want you to see. But now you know how to look deeper, how to see what they're hiding, how to read what they're really showing you. The question is whether you'll use it, whether you'll start watching instead of just listening. Whether you'll start seeing people as they actually are instead of as they present themselves. Because that's where safety lives. That's where wisdom lives. That's where you finally stop being fooled and start seeing clearly. Subscribe for more tactical wisdom that protects you from the games people play.